region.
Jack Draxler, I understand I'm at large. I'm from North Logan. I'm a real estate appraiser by profession. I served state legislature for 10 years, and that full 10 years I served on the Natural Resources Committee, so I became real familiar with Utah Parks.
So you still retaining because of your time away from the legislature? Are you recovering, or how would you characterize it?
It's ongoing. No, I like to stay involved. I get down there during the session a time or two, and I've been asked. In fact, I was asked if I miss it. I miss the association with people. I don't wish I was still there. I think people need to take turns. Certainly.
So Jack was telling me that his tenure in the legislature and his associate with Parks goes further back to Mary when she was director.
Yep.
And he was there for the time period when the state parks went through a huge transformation. And with the legislature challenging parks to change their business model, to consider privatization in different places. And after all that, Jack was a supporter, and we've seen great change and great improvement. And appreciate having Jack as part of this. And he got a great history, and you enjoy your time here. Well,
Oh, I'm Fallon Owens, and I'm trying to figure out what to call.
you got
But I have a name?
there.
A lot of counties, that's for sure. And I'm the tourism director in Parkland County, so that's where I live. In the big state parks in my county, in my backyard. So this is fun.
So in October, we're going to be coming down to your area and going to see a bunch of your stuff. And so
Yeah,
we're
I'm
excited to.
I'm Joni Hammer. I represent the parks we visited yesterday, and welcome to my neighborhood. I'm Laurie Backus. I'm the other director for state parks.
Nathan Schwabach, Deputy Director with the Department of Natural Resources.
Good.
Okay. Good term photo. I serve and oversee the greatest region in the state, the North region. Welcome, everyone. I'm Shane Stroud. I work in the Attorney General's office, and I'm the Attorney General of the state park.
I'm Susan Director. I worked for state parks for like 7 years. I do the
Thank you. And online, Wayne, can we start with you?
Sure. Hi, and welcome Jack and Fallon to the board. That's pretty great to have you guys. Sounds like you'll have some great insight for us. I'm out of the Southwest region. I work in the Cedar City office, managing that Southwest half of the state. That's, I think, about it.
Megan?
And you're the third best region, right, Wayne? I'm Megan Blackwelder. I'm the East Region Manager based out of Moab, but our region goes from the whole east side of the state. So we work with a little bit with Fallon and lots with Natalie and Alicia. So thank you for having us.
Any response, Wayne? That is probably.
You know, I was trying to keep it formal. But then there's Megan always has to throw a jab in there. We'll settle this offline.
Chris kind of started it. So I get it.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. We've got an agenda. Has everybody had a chance to review the agenda? All right, accept the motion to review the agenda. Yeah, it's got a motion from Joan. Is there a second?
Second.
Got a second from Jack. He's quick. You don't have a lot of experience with that.
Yep.
Okay. And as far as the quorum, you're welcome to step in and tell us how to do things right. Okay?
No way.
Okay. Well, there may be so, all those in favor of approving our agenda, please say aye.
All right.
Any opposed, please say the same. Okay, motion passes. We also have minutes from our February 16th, 2023 board meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review those? And if so, I accept the motion.
I'll make a motion.
And is there a second? Second from Brandon. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passed. Thank you. Let's talk about our board reports. And I'll just start. It's been a long time since we've gotten together. And one of the highlights of my time is that I went out of my way and I visited Camp Floyd. And I think I was right on the heels of Claudia visiting there. They made mention of Claudia coming there. Rusty's been there recently as well. Wow. Yeah. Everything comes together in this place. We talked about their challenges with doing chair yoga. You guys do occasionally this vision? Is that right?
Chair yoga. I've heard of goat yoga.
Office exercises or something?
Oh.
Well, I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is.
I guess I got the impression that you guys like did something and their office is very tiny. And
It is very.
they sit back to back and they can't even slide their chairs to that one person slide into that. Yeah, Camp Floyd. Chair yoga anyway. So maybe it was back during EDS, where when it was done a couple of years ago or something. Anyway,
Oh, yeah.
It's still- it stood out in their minds as an example of the challenges with their office. And it is neat little park and a lot of neat history. Take an opportunity to go out your way. It's kind of a one-way trip unless you want to make a long route, which is still a good opportunity to see some back roads. So we're kind of in Russ's area and Brent's backyard, and how big your yard is. But Camp Floyd's a neat experience. We spent time at Quail Creek. We had an office party out there and loved it. The campground's coming along. It's almost finished. It's going to be a really nice asset. They now have a floating water park out at Quail Creek, which hasn't been there very long, but that's really nice. San Paulo has been just packed with reservations. They now have two tiny homes that are out on the south side of the reservoir that park, and you're just with the water level being high, you're just probably 60 feet from the water. It's a beautiful opportunity there. And the new campground has just been packed. It's been a busy time. Had a recent fatality, which certainly could have been avoided. Just sad to see those things take place. Hot time down there in July, really dry. Gotten out to Snow Canyon a little bit. Plan to go there a little bit more this fall and winter. It's a great time. I run into a lot of people who are headed to Zion, and I tell them if you want to have a better experience in Zion and see just the same incredible kind of scenery and have more opportunities for solitude and not seeing people, go to Snow Canyon. And anyway, I'm expecting that we're just getting out and it's a beautiful place. Gunlock is still just doing great things, and look where sport is today versus even 3 or 4 years ago. Campground with bringing in some utilities, and John has just done a great job there. Just really proud of what he's doing. I went through the old Irontown here a while back, and look forward to taking the board there one of these days. Visiting that, just to meet historical side. Make fun times. We look forward to our tour in October, when we'll get down to a part of the state where we kind of spend a lot of time. We've got some really incredible state parks down there, and I look forward to hearing from Alicia and Joan when kind of on just a huge tour. Sounds like, I don't know if that was like Velma and Louise or if that was.
Definitely.
We should have done it just a little better than we did though. Yeah.
Well, with that, let's jump to Alicia. You can tell us about your.
So Joan and I had this random afternoon after some meeting in Bryce Canyon, and so we decided what better way than to visit state parks. Don't worry about us up there.
Thank you. I haven't seen them.
I'll show you. Okay. So we went to Kodachrome, and amazing.
It's in one of
So,
these places.
Yes, and what about those Adobe house things that they're building in there? Those are so cool. Yeah, that's gonna just add like a whole new feature to that park. Did you go camp there too afterwards? Yeah. So super cool state park. And then we went over to Otter Creek and there was so much water. No, is that not where we went?
You went to
No.
Escalante.
We went to Escalante. No, I went to Otter Creek on my own.
Yeah,
We went to
petrified.
Escalante and the water was coming into
So now you
the.
pronounce it different ways. I'm looking.
So, well, I don't know
Escalante.
how you pronounce it, so I'm going on Escalante.
Oh, there's the three.
Yeah, it
Okay.
depends.
Okay.
It depends.
Maybe told me I had to be professional in this meeting, so.
Just go with the local.
Fallon was correct.
We locals say Escalante or Escalante. We just say Escalante.
Okay,
If you want
And I go
something.
by like the cheerleaders at the high school, like
Uh-huh.
they say Escalante. So
Escalante.
They do.
Escalante,
huh?
yeah, they do. And that's
Well,
pretty
anyways, we
local.
went there and there was so much water, it was coming up in the parking lot. So that was super awesome. There was a big group of, looked like a Girl Scout or something, and they were just out paddling and, just really cool. And their gift shop and office and everything built there and really nice. So, and then we went down to Anasazi and went inside the little house, what do you call that? Pit house, that's what it was, and all that. The pit house, and we visited with the ladies there, and, just had
Ate at
the food truck out on the lawn. and- Yeah, so that was fun. And then on my way back, huh?
You go to Pine Reservoir?
No, I did not, we did not go to Paiute, but I went to Otter Creek I turned there between Otter Creek and Paiute and went another way that last told me, and I got the speeding ticket. So,
Did?
yes.
I missed that part.
Yeah, and there was no service. But I did go to Otter Creek and, it is beautiful. And so I went into the main entrance and then the road that you turn to go also lets you go on top and then took that typical Otter Creek thing. And then I stopped at Huntington off the way.
Wow.
So, good tours. And then, of course, Seinecker, had our big paddle fest during this time, which was wonderful. Actually probably works a little bit better than Red Fleet where we normally have it. So I don't know what we'll do when that's open again. And then Red Fleet, of course, is closed for construction. So I haven't been in there yet this year, other than at the ribbon cutting. And then I also haven't been over to Fred Hayes. Some of this summer, but I drive by it all the time over the ramp, and I think they're doing well. So that's kind of very important.
Thank you. Have we met since we did the training in St. George? I don't think we did. I think,
No.
because we.
February was our last one, and that was in
Yeah.
March.
So that was super amazing to be a part of that.
I didn't bring it up.
Yeah.
And it never ceased to amaze me how amazing the staff is. I'm using the word amazing a lot because we're talking about state park. But just that many happy people. And then they did the 10-year awards. And I'm like, okay, there's 5-year, 10-year, 15. I'm like, well, I'll start dwindling. No, the higher the years, the higher the number of people on the stage. It seemed like just an amazing thing. And the Black Bolt Camp too. It's something I don't know if we're doing anything with that, but I think we all felt like it at the end of that guy's speech. So I hope we're going to do something with that. But that was just amazing, and especially just the employees. Couple of my highlights with State Park is Jeff and Chris hooked me up with East Canyon on the little cabin. And I'm like, I just want one on the water. I don't care which park. We're talking like 12 feet off the back into the water. And yeah, it was just amazing. And my boys and they just loved it. Now all they want to talk about is what other state parks we could go stay at. So that was awesome. Staff was awesome. Also, I'm on the Zero Fatalities Committee for our county. And I had a bunch of swag for like safe driving, and there was like little bottles of sunscreen and lip balm. And so I'm like, well, I'll take that up to Yuba. And so I took it out there, and they're passing that up for us, and people came to the gate, and Yuba's doing awesome. They're spilling water from it. The Delta people keep taking the water out of Yuba, but they're doing awesome. And then I stopped at Otter Creek also, and what's interesting there is the owl people. They're saying it's bad enough that they're telling everyone not to swim. And I heard a week ago some people went, they told them not to swim, but everybody was swimming until they took a chance. But this time there was nobody.
the water was glass, there was no boat, there was 2 campers, but they're saying it's really hurt it. Paiute, I guess, is doing better. But I just thought Paiute, I drove by, it was in your neck of the woods before last week, and it was my neck of the woods. But the other thing that I would say is there's a lot of emergencies on the news at state parks this summer. And every time I felt like the state park staff handled it so amazing. So, you know, the clips on the news and the quotes seemed like gun launch was just every other day. So they, you know, John saying, don't run around by the falls, and then there they go, off they go. But that's one thing I'll notice is that a lot of things seem to be happening because we're so busy, but in every case, it seemed like that the rangers and the staff there handled it really well. And the last thing I'll say is I was at Bryce Canyon yesterday, and I think the federal government got the first 5 picks of cool places in Utah, and then we took what was left. And I think we have done more with what was left than they do with the 5 picks. There's no experience. You go to Bryce Canyon, you don't interact. Every time I go to a state park, you're just filled with kindness by the staff. And I feel like that we just really excel at that, even over the national parks. Plus, I know Biden's in town, we're supposed to be federal today, but anyway, so awesome feeling with all the state parks that I just don't feel the big ones with my side. So that's my report.
Brent, the Black Folks Camp 2 guys coming to tourism conference.
Oh, awesome.
That should come to St. George.
Okay, I'm up. Well, I haven't really been around much, but I did actually go with everybody in the state to Gunlock and just after our last meeting. And I just want to reiterate what you just said. They did such a great job. I mean, they were overrun. I was there March 15th, so right at kind of the peak of it there. But the staff was amazing. They had a lot of volunteers helping from people at park, helping out there. That was a wonderful, fun little side trip. But that just goes to show what social media does these days. All you got to do is see one thing on your feed, and it just gets shared. And it's good. It's good for the park, right? As long as they can handle. I felt sorry for, like you were saying, there was people all over in the water. There was people trying to get across on logs. It's like, oh my gosh, I felt sorry for the emergency people.
Yeah, I did see John out at Olive Garden last week, seeing his wife again. He is getting some.
He survived.
So yeah.
Good.
Just want to let everybody know.
Yeah, it's probably mellowed out a little bit since then. The only other park that I've been to, I actually went to Gooseneck State Park. I was on a ride on my motorcycle, and
Did you go down that dirt switch back?
yep,
Oh, wow.
absolutely.
That's pretty
Actually went up, but
The
came
monkey
mixed
dog way?
in half
That's
and
actually
then
better
went
than
up.
down.
Oh, I've done that one other time, but that's a great park. I didn't have any interaction with any of the staff there, but I was just amazed once again. That's all I've got.
Claudia, please go ahead.
Well, I have visited some state parks because we didn't have a meeting that I could have come to later, but I wanted to report that I have served on the Planning and Zoning Commission for Sanpete County, and lo and behold, Palisades State Park came to Planning and Zoning and got a conditional use for the new campground. So yes, they did it right. So I was very pleased with that. I also visited Camp Floyd, visited there, and got the gentleman there who took you around that tiny little museum was so knowledgeable, and he wanted to share every bit of knowledge that he knew about that, which was awesome. I also had an opportunity to go to Tuacahn. So on a whim, I cut off from Cedar City and went over and did the Old Iron Town Mission, which we loved. Spent too much time there because then I went around to Gunlock to see the falls. Running out of time to get to Tuacahn, so going into Gunlock, going into St. George, knew I had to get on the other road to Tuacahn, so cut across, went over, just about to Tuacahn, got pulled over and got my first ticket that I've ever had since I was a teenager. So just know, Ivans is on the lookout for middle-aged old drivers.
They should not be
there. So, yeah. But I've enjoyed my time on the board. It was amazing. I was at large. I can honestly say, I think I have visited every state park except one monument and maybe 6 parks, but I didn't really want to do the flight park, and I don't do ATV, so I didn't do the Jordan ATV. Didn't get to Salt Lake Marina, and Echo and Rockport and Lost Canyon are still on my list to go. So other than that, I have a feel for every single state park.
It's a great accomplishment. Is that a challenge that you go to like?
I wanted to, yeah.
Is that something you'd suggest to all our new board members?
Which are at large.
Yeah.
Challenge, 4 years to do it. But did appreciate my time. It was great. All of the association and great experience. I'll continue to buy my pass next year.
So similar, it sounds like, to some of the other folks on the board. I attended the Bryce Canyon Centennial event. Great job, Fallon, and all of your partners there on celebrating that. My family ended up staying over, and we went to Kodachrome and spent the night in the Basin campground. And then we took our bikes. We have a 6-year-old, so we love to pedal with him on the panorama trails around that area and bike throughout the park. So it was great to do that. Ran into a ton of other little kids on the trail and families that were out there with them. And it's just, I mean, Nathan, your point about that being family experiences, it really is such a great place to build those, and for us to have that over the summer with our kid. Along the way home, we also went to the Petrified Forest, and we did that. It's about a mile or 2 to go up to see the Petrified Forest and walk through that. So we did that with him. Overlooks that reservoir that's in that area too. So that's beautiful. Had the opportunity, this wasn't quite visiting a state park, but was invited to be a part of the hiring process for the Dead Horse Point's new manager with Aaron leaving. So it was great to see all of the interest, and it really opened my eyes to even further that, nationally our parks are on the map. I'm not speaking directly about any of the candidates that were interviewed or anything, but we did see interest to come and manage a park from out of state, and there's significant interest to do that. So seeing that is huge, I think, for our state. The other thing I was thinking through too, we also were up at Soldier Hollow. The governor does his annual invitational golfing event there. So just that's the place that the governor, the executive branch, I know that the Senate does a golf tournament as well, that they choose our state parks to host their events. So a great note of that. In my region, I just wanted to do a shout out to Gooseneck State Park. They're hosting the annual solar eclipse, the Ring of Fire Fest. So it's unique eclipse in the sense that you get to see the ring of the sun around it versus it being completely blacked out. And I'm just learning more and more about it. So I'm not a scientist to be able to properly explain all the technical terms of it. But there's a point where we have one of the longest times that it will stay in that space of 4 minutes and 47 minutes, or 4 minutes. But yeah, I think it's 4 minutes long in length, 37 seconds. And that'll be at Gooseneck State Park. So there's a cool event that's going on there. They're building that out in partnership with San Juan County Economic Development, Visitor Services, local county Visitors Bureau, BLM, Forest Service, Park Service. So great partnership.
And that's in October, right?
And it's on October, yeah. So I think it's October 14th.
Or is it the I think the eclipse is the 14th.
That weekend. Yeah.
It is the 14th.
We have a page on our website of all the parks doing it, so let me just go.
Yeah. But Gooseneck, I think, has that longest time to be able to see.
It is the 14th.
Yes, the 14th.
And if you visit the website, you can see every single state park on a map and where each park lies in the path of the eclipse. So you can pick the park near you to check.
That's awesome.
Where is that at, Devin?
On our dark sky page, there's a whole
On the
page
dark sky
dedicated
page,
to
okay.
the eclipse.
That's awesome.
Well, I'll say.
Yeah, I think Gooseneck is going to be packed. They're planning for it. The county has a lot of prep work done with their public safety and everything around that. Sat in interim session. Great job, Scott, on your report. Again, a reminder, the legislature's they're huge fans of state parks and nothing but great things to say about the work that's being done with Parks Paths and the innovation that's happening there. In my full-time position with the state tourism industry. We see what we navigate with national parks and with timed entry system and reservation, and state parks really is leading the way in building out those platforms. So kudos to you all. I thought it'd be helpful too to share just broad statewide numbers very briefly. Utah Office of Tourism and Kempsey Gardner release numbers every year about visitor numbers to the area. I think it's significant for state parks to be aware of them because contributing significantly to that. These numbers are from 2022, so we're always like slightly a year behind. But for overall visitor spending, direct spending in the state in 2022, we saw $11.98 billion, 152,800 jobs, and 2.12 billion in state and local tax revenue. What that means for state parks to some degree, I don't have the full breakdown, but every time someone stays at a state park, unlike some of our national park forest land areas, campgrounds, but if you stay at one of these tiny homes or if you stay on a campground, you're contributing to both state and local transient room tax. And those dollars, what that means for a county is it transitions to one, further establishing and promoting the visitor community and bringing in visitors to that community, but it also in a lot of the rural counties helps with EMS, search and rescue, waste management, and a lot of that management that we're having to deal with recreation and visitors coming to the area. So a huge piece to the local economy and supporting our local communities as well. Sorry for the long.
No. Jack, we'll go to you, and if you haven't visited too many parks, you can tell us about your experience yesterday, or tell us a little bit about your favorite parks, or tell us where you have plans to go in the near future. And part of this is we encourage our board to visit parks, to experience it, to get feedback to us directly, positive and negative. If there's things that need to be changed, we want to hear about it.
Yeah. I just counted up, and I have either with my family or through the Natural Resources Committee over 10 years, I've visited 22 state parks. And as I said, I'm a big fan. In 2008, when there were the big budget cuts that became necessary, it was a difficult difficult time for the legislature to try to institute a whole bunch of cuts, and therefore each state agency had to do that. I was mentioning to Corey, one of the ones that I went to bat for on that committee was the golf course at Green River. Because it wasn't making a net profit, there was some sentiment to get rid of it, let it go private or whatever. And I really fought that, saying, look, everything doesn't have to be a profit maker to be valuable for the citizens of our state. And that was one. So we managed to keep that on the slate. And for that area and that specific community, that was a big deal. So, and I don't know if I have a favorite. They're all amazing. I see Bear Lake State Park a couple times a month because I go up there and praise real estate. So, but I'm watching that because of the impacts that are going on the lake itself and the communities of the county. Almost every new home that I appraise up there is a huge 6 or 8 bedroom, 5 or 6 bathroom home, which is specifically intended for vacation rentals, short-term rentals. And that's becoming a real industry up there, but also a real challenge. The transient room tax, trying to collect that on those can be a real fun situation. But the lake itself is sort of threatened because of a number of things. And so as time goes by, I'd like to see what we can do to protect that. I know that one thing that the state of Idaho has done is they passed a resolution in their legislature, and Scott, you're probably aware of this. recognizing it as a special resource. And we have a bill that Senator Chris Wilson is bringing to the Water Resources Task Force. Do you know when they meet next time?
I'm not sure when the task force meets next. I know they were having some meetings this week, but I don't know if they addressed that.
Might have been. He's proposing a similar piece of legislation for Utah. And what that does is simply raise the level of awareness for everybody that it's a special resource and needs to be protected. It's threatened by simple overuse, but it's also threatened by vegetation that washes into the lake. And they told us about this in our tour yesterday, that degrades the water quality and then specifically degrades the beaches. And so anyway, that's probably a kind of my pet project because it's so close to me.
It's interesting yesterday, and we've talked about that before, is the, some of these areas where the price of housing is going so crazy and the challenges of our workforce being built for to live there. We saw that yesterday at Bear Lake, and also to get seasonal help. And I think it's going to be an ongoing issue. I don't know where that ultimately ends up, where those costs go, how high they go, and how we ultimately deal with it. And appreciate some of the things you're working on now, and it's gonna be super civil on our list of challenges. That one, let's go to you as well.
Yeah. So, I guess this year I visited Goblin Valley for the first time. That was awesome. A little bit warm, but really nice. About in the middle of nowhere, but pretty dry. I would just echo to what Natalie said about working in state parks versus federal and like national park areas. It's amazing what we can accomplish with state parks versus having a national park. Although I love having a national park in my area, it's incredible what state parks can accomplish.
Well, we should kind of reported on our fun day, and we did take selfies and actually said your name. I think Scott would be so proud of you. So it was really cool to me when we went. The managers were off for some meeting.
Yeah, region meeting.
Yeah, it was a region meeting. Anyway, but it was fun to see how passionate just day-to-day staff is about everything. It was, they're just so fun. And I mean, each of them would have kept us hours if we were at the time. They were just very, very passionate about it. At the Territorial State House, my poor husband, every time we're on I-15, I'm like, let's just clear up here. Let's just clear up here. And so he started to get used to that. Antelope Island, Great Salt Lake. So I grew up in Magnus, so we spent our lives at the Great Salt Lake. And since I've lived in Brigham, we just don't ever stop. So, and my dad lives in Bridgewater County, so we literally drive by it 4 or 5 times a month. So we made that stop. Yesterday's tours were really great. I got a text from Mark, who was our boat driver, and said, I hope that was what you wanted. And don't you love Richard, park manager? I know he can kind of talk a lot. It's because he's passionate. And I wrote it back and said, that tour was for gathering information and having the board really learn about that. And so we're like, he was spot on to be able to do that. I enjoyed seeing how busy Willard Bay was last night on a weeknight. And as we were leaving a few minutes before 7, the line to get into the park was just long. And so that was really good. We did use our park manager. So what's his official title? Sergeant. sergeant. So anyway, he's
North
working
Region
at, he's working at the state parks office in Salt Lake. So we're on the lookout for a brilliant replacement. So we're excited about that. So, yeah, so we'll see what the next quarter brings.
It's always a pleasure, talking to our partner managers, and they are passionate and for good reason. We love and appreciate that with them. We've got all three of our regional managers here with us, and we appreciate all that you guys do. We don't always hear from you, but we appreciate your efforts and all you do to support our individual parks and to keep the issues addressed and budget money flowing and providing leadership and training. We appreciate all you guys do. Before we started our meeting, I appreciated Aaron from Fish and Wildlife just giving us a really brief safety minute for how to exit in case of emergency. In all of our construction meetings at my work, and even a lot of our staff meetings, we always start with a safety minute, any topic, and this makes me mindful of all of the things that we face out in our state parks, the accidents, the credits we take care about fatalities. But I encourage everybody just to keep safety forefront in all of your activities. Talk about safety in our personal lives too. We want everybody to go home at the end of the day for our work, and we want your personal lives to be safe and come back to work. It's all tied together, right? So be safe in all that you do. Take care of each other and yourself. Let's go ahead and I think we're just about on time with our schedule and our agenda. Let's do our division report. We'll jump into Scott.
Great, thank you. And it's great to be here today. It's ironic, but I wanted to point out and really thank Melanie first off, but for putting this together. She's behind the scenes organizing this. And anyone who's done this, and I know several of you in the room have organized meetings like this, but there's a lot that goes into it. And just wanted to thank Melanie for that. And then Joni was the next one on my list.
They both were.
Yeah. She's gone too. And it's probably easier for them to take the praise when they're not here. But just thanks for Joni and her organizing the trip yesterday and really showing off more than Utah, which is great. I wanted to welcome Fallon and Jack as well. And one of the things I love about my job is collaborating with other people. And it was so much fun to see Fallon on Tuesday. We had a congressional meeting and we were able to just connect for a minute. And of course, she's doing like 20 different things at the same time. So we just got to talk for a minute, but it was good to see it. And then I was up at the Capitol yesterday preparing for a presentation, and then I'm just kind of sitting by myself, going over my notes, and Natalie just appears out of nowhere. And it's kind of one of those, I almost felt like she put her shoulder or her hand on my shoulder, and it was this calming experience just to banter back and forth for a little bit. So I really appreciate that. Appreciate just the relationships that we have with each other on this board. I think that we all love outdoor recreation. We love the guest experience. And we have this passion not only in a career, but also in so that's great. And I love what Nathan said about, families and growing up in state parks with your family. I do the same thing, which is fantastic. Again, Joni, you left, but thank you for organizing us today and making this happen. It's great.
We just wanted to make sure we had someone to pick up lines.
Always going into it. That's great. The other thing I wanted to mention, and we talked about this a little bit, and I appreciate Corey and region managers being here. And I really do believe that our management team, we have great leaders, and you see that all the way down through our organization. And I just want to say, I've had a chance for years and years to communicate and meet with our staff, and they are amazing. A couple of weeks ago, I had a chance to take some of the governor's staff on a tour of the good parks, the four great parks of town down in the southern part of the state. And I think it was so, I mean, it just gives me chills to think about what they said about the experience. They talked over and over about just saying, thanks for making this happen. Thanks for your staff. And the things that they said about our staff, about how everyone was engaged and they love what they do and they have this passion and enjoyment and it just exudes from them. They could just feel it. And the staff member also brought her daughter who's 15. And I think this is the best compliment that I've ever heard. But her 15-year-old daughter said, when I grow up, I want to look for state parks. And I get it, just makes me tingle that she wants to share those same experiences that she had for the first time, but she wants to be a part of that. And really that we do have amazing parks and amazing places, but it's the people that make the difference. And I can't say that enough, just how grateful I am to work with such a great group of people. And then I wanted to mention Jeff, where you mentioned Jeff. Just wanted, I'm sure Jeff is listening right now, but I wanted him to know that we're thinking about Jeff and Michelle and the loss of Grandma Shirley. So I just want them to know we're thinking about it. And then now I'll jump into my report. That's kind of a long segue into the report, but there are two things essentially that I wanted to mention today. One was an overview of our funding requests. And Alan and Jack, well, Jack, you probably know fairly well, but every year we go to the legislature and make funding requests. So I'll talk about those funding requests. And then lastly, I just want to talk briefly about some of the things, the two things I talked about yesterday. So let me jump into funding requests. These are funding requests that are outside of our typical our set budget. And the first one is asphalt. We have a request for $2.5 million for asphalt needs. We have an ongoing appropriation of $1.25 million for asphalt, but we're asking for another 2.5. That's in part because costs have gone up, obviously, as well as we have lots and lots of roads that we just can't get to with that 1.25 million. If you look at Antelope Island alone, and I don't know how many miles, but it's 40 miles of roads that we need to resurface out there, and it's expensive. I was at Snow Canyon State Park a couple of weeks ago, and I saw the road out there, and I thought, didn't we just redo this road? And it looks like, it looks like it needs to be done again. I think that was 7 years ago. But anyway, $2.5 million for asphalt. The next one we have is $5 million for a new campground at Wasatch Mountain State Park. The current campground needs a lot of help, and so we're kind of looking at other places where we might be able to build another campground. And this is really in the infancy stages. I'm sure Chris is actually really surprised to hear that we're talking about this, but
Never stop.
but we do have some ideas, at least some creative ideas that we're kind of vetting right now, and we'll look at those and see where it goes. $5 million is not a lot of money for a modern day campground. Typically, we're looking at $15 to $20 million for a campground. But we want to be creative and see if we can try a few different things to control costs and maybe do some of the construction in-house. The next one is current expense, and current expense is honestly it's garbage removal, it's toilet paper, it's cleaning supplies, that kind of thing, and that's $700,000. Again, when you look at the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, the index grew again by almost, well, it was 4.8% last year, and that's up from almost 10% last year. So again, we're seeing all of our costs increase, and the $700,000 will help us fill that gap. The next one is lodging. This is one that really excites me. We've talked about Natalie talked about the tiny houses, we call them cottages, internally, just to create a little consistency there. But they're amazing. And Corey talked about the cottages that we have at San Paulo. They're incredibly popular. People are staying in them, where I think we're attracting a new niche visitor because it's a full service. And we said, it's a tiny home. So it has everything that you would expect in a cabin or even your own home. It has, a loft, master bath, bedroom with a bathroom and a kitchen. And then we've got amazing decks, and some of our cottages have barbecues out on the porch area. So anyway, it's just such a neat concept, and we're seeing it grow and grow, and we need more funding for that. And we're doing the same thing for seasonal housing. We're asking for $500,000 for lodging and seasonal housing. The seasonal housing will essentially be these tiny houses. We need to come up with a different descriptor, a way to separate them from cottages. So we'll work out, and Lori's great with that. So I'm sure we'll come up with some kind of title for those. But the really neat thing is so we've taken this idea of lodging and seasonal housing, and I kept thinking, how can we stretch our dollar? The cost of these things just keep going up year over year. The first time we looked at them, buying them, they were $65,000. Now they're about $105,000. So again, thinking about creative solutions, I got with a legislature, and we started bouncing ideas off each other. I said, hey, what if we work with local high schools? Said that, the high school that I went to, I wasn't part of it, but they had a construction piece, and I think the seniors spent half of their day building these two houses in Mountville. And I always thought, well, the craftsmanship isn't going to be great, but these two houses, this is maybe I'm giving away too much, but it was 35 years ago. And these houses are in great shape today. And when they were built, I would say they were at the pinnacle of the standard building at that time. So the idea is to work with some of the high schools throughout the state, not just in one area, but throughout the state. And there's an innovative high school in Washington County that's coming up. We've actually reached out and started conversations with them, but again, to engage the high school students to help build these. And obviously we would have them stand by an engineer, a structural engineer, and then we'll have them inspected throughout the process.
Would you seek provided materials?
Yeah. And we could we've talked about some barriers that have been brought up by the school district, and we would provide materials. We could even provide some, maybe even a teacher as far as that goes, because they talked about how difficult it is to attract teachers. So to overcome that, we've even talked about what we do. So, and we think that by going through this process, we could save anywhere from, I think, on the conservative side, it's probably 20%, all the way to about 40% cost reduction, as well as, again, we bring in these students with the real experience.
Scott, where are these being built now, the ones that we're getting?
So we have a contract with a local, I guess they would be a modular home retailer, and they get the modular home for the tiny houses from Arizona, Idaho, and the Midwest.
Okay,
So that's where they're getting being built. They're not being built in.
that was my question. The technical colleges also have building programs.
Yeah, and thank you for mentioning that, because that's where it started. I forgot, I looked at the design piece, but we actually celebrated last fall. I think we had 10 students that had they've already designed different models of tiny houses. So we did a really neat thing down at Dixie Technical College with the students. And there was an article in the book about that too. So thanks for bringing that up. Yes, the design piece will be done by the college students. And again, it's one of those things where it just grows and grows and grows, and we become more and more inclusive as far as, participation is concerned. What originated as a state park project has gotten so much bigger than as we have done it. It's got more attention from us. The last thing, I talked about our appreciation for our staff, And we want to attract good staff. And one of many ways that we can do that is with pay. So the last funding request that we're asking for is $850,000 for the current fiscal year. So that would be a supplemental request for FY24. And then ongoing in fiscal year 25, we're asking for $1.5 million. And that would be for both full-time staff as well as seasonal staff. And just for a little bit of perspective, if we were to go back 5 years ago and look at what we're paying our first year seasonal staff, that wage would be probably $9.08 an hour. So we're paying almost double that today. It's closer to the $15, $16, $17 an hour that first year staff. And that's just the world we live in today. We've got to pay more to get those folks who are skilled and happy to do this. And we need the funding for that. So that's the last one. Any questions about the funding request before I move on? Any other questions?
So did you present this yesterday then, these budget requests, or they have not been presented?
No, and in fact, these have not been even introduced to the governor's office.
Okay.
So this is very preliminary. The legislature hasn't heard it. The governor's office. We have a meeting next week with the governor's office to go over this. I will say that the governor's office is very supportive of the funding requests. And 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago, when we went through these funding requests, and part of this was because of the turnover in the new governor and the leadership group, but they cut every single one of our requests by at least 50%. Last year, when we went through, we spent a lot of time educating, working with government staff. They approved every one of our requests and actually added money to one of the requests that we had. So I think they've seen the regional state parks and the importance, and I love, now that we bring out the economic value of state parks, and that has so many drivers to them. Employment being one of those many drivers. So.
Can I just say one thing too?
Sure.
Something I always appreciated, and I'm sure you're still doing this, is not only when you come and make a request, but a report of how you've utilized past allocations. And that is so valuable for the governor's office and for the legislature to say, okay, you approved this budget request last time. Here's what we did with it. And we appreciate it very much. That goes a long ways.
I totally agree. And what's even better is to take them on the ground to show them tangible evidence of what we did. And then there's another piece of that, and I know that you'll appreciate this as being a past legislator, is how are we going to fund this? So, Jack and Fallon are a bit new to this. All of these requests are restricted fees requests. So that means that the money that we're asking for these funding requests is money that we generate from state parks, from entrance fees, from camping fees. That's where the money comes from. It's not general fund, which is really unique. Most agencies will come and ask for taxpayer funds. That's not what we do. Good question. The next part, and I probably am going a bit long, so I'll go through this a little bit faster. Yesterday in interim, we talked about out-of-state fees, and there was a big push by legislative leadership to look at our fees that we charge out-of-state folks and decide is the price point right for these folks, knowing that the entrance fees do pay for operating costs, but they don't pay for all of the time that our facility costs. And that is oftentimes is borne by taxpayers. So we've received almost $200 million over the last 3 years in general fund money to build campgrounds, expand our footprint in state parks. And that again is from the general fund. So what it said is, hey, we've infused this large amount of money into state parks. Why are you, or is there a reason that you would treat out-of-state visitors and guests the same as in-state? So I did a lot of research, and I did some comparative analysis with in-state and out-of-state tuition. And I found that in-state versus out-of-state, if you're an out-of-state resident, you're going to pay 3 times as much to come and be educated in the state of Utah as if compared to as if you were an in-state resident. Hunting and fishing licenses are very similar to that. On the low end, it's 2 or 3 times, and then depending on what kind of hunting license you get, it can be more. And then I looked at the western states. The western states are all funded differently than Utah, so that comparative gets a little bit fuzzy in that, you know, you look at Colorado. Colorado says when you talk to Colorado state parks, they say they're self-sufficient, but when you start asking more questions, well, you find out that more than half of their budget comes from the Colorado state lottery. We obviously don't have that in Utah. Oregon and Washington also do that. And so the funding structure is a little bit different, which trickles down to how the fees are charged. I will say, and Jack, you talked about Bear Lake. If you want to go over to Idaho, I'm not sure why you would ever want to go over to the Idaho side of Bear Lake because Utah side is so great. But if you were to go over there and access the lake from the Idaho side, you would pay twice as much as a Utah resident to come into Bear Lake on the Idaho side. And then New Mexico charges a 33% higher rate for out of state. So we looked at those factors and then presented yesterday to the legislature, and they had an appetite to increase it more than double for out of state residents. But I think that we settled on that we would essentially have a multiplier of 2 for all of our out of state visitors at every one of our state parks. They also asked us that we eliminate the annual pass for out of state visitors. They said, you know, again, they asked the question, why would we give an out of state visitor a discount to our state parks? And so they asked us to eliminate those out of state annual passes. The idea is to have this put into place. They asked that it be put in place at the first of the year. So this would happen then first for their request. And then after that, I kind of anticipated this a little bit, but wasn't on the agenda. They asked some questions about the annual pass. And you all know that 2 years ago, we went to a calendar annual pass rather than a rolling 12-month annual pass. We also, just as a side note, I think it's important to know that we did make other changes with the annual pass, which is we added a second signature line on the annual pass, which is a huge benefit. Before, that pass was only good for one person, and only the person who signed that pass could use it. Now we have 2 signatures. So if you have a spouse or a significant other, you can share it that way. But they had a little bit of hesitation as far as the calendar year. They were talking about fairness as far as if I bought the pass today, I'm going to pay full price, but I don't get the year. So we talked about how we could use technology to overcome that. And there's this idea that we could use Parks Pass, and many of you have heard about Parks Pass, which is a digital pass that you can buy, just have on your phone. And that's a collaborative effort with the university, UTU, and St. George as well. But you could have it there, and then you register essentially, and we can verify you have the annual pass, and that way we can track the 12 months a bit easier on a rolling scale rather than just the physical pass, which will still be like they seem to like that. I do sense that there's still a little bit of concern for the calendar year pass versus a rolling 12-month pass, but with technology, I think we'll overcome that issue there. Any questions on those 2 out-of-state fees for the annual pass?
What's the next steps for the out-of-state fees? Like after that initial conversation, where do you go next from here?
We haven't talked about the plan and implementing the plan yet. We just have that January 1st deadline. As you know, the meeting happened yesterday, and Jeff and I talked for just a minute yesterday, but we'll get together with our leadership group and our other folks and figure out how to actually make that happen. Because as you know, again, how do you verify that someone is in state versus out of state? What do you do with someone that's a second home, primary and secondary home? And those are discussions we had before, and we continue to have them, but with all of those issues.
Just thinking about that communication as well to our out-of-state visitors that are coming in, and just anticipating some of that and working with like the local communities and their messaging to their visitors.
Yeah, and that's such a great idea. We did talk about sharing the information on social media, but I would love the idea of partnering with our local TMOs and you, UTF, to get the word out there. I think because that push can come from state parks, but I think it goes a lot farther. So that's great.
Anything else? That's my report. Okay, any questions for Scott? I guess in the budget, I'm excited to hear money for lodging, money for pay. Those are just ongoing issues we got to take care of our people. In the past, we've seen, fast food paying more for seasonal help than we are, and we wanted the good people, not the leftovers, right?
Yes.
The same thing with our full-time staff, take care of them where they can stay with us and not look elsewhere with other states or other departments to have a better lifestyle or something sustainable. They should take care of people. Thank you, Scott. Appreciate all you do, and Governor Jeff, the legislature, and well do. Laura, let's go to you for operations.
Just like to echo what Scott was saying about, thank you for your guys' service and being on this board. Really appreciate the time that we spent together yesterday and continue, the time we will spend in the future. So I'm really looking forward to going down to your neck of the woods next time, because that is the one area that I haven't visited personally myself very much. So I'm excited to go down there too. So we had a cool start to the summer, at least up in the north. Didn't really start till mid-June. So things were a little bit slower up here. That wasn't the case down south. As mentioned, Gunlock Falls was going for months. So we actually sent a lot of personnel down south to assist with the falls. So that was a really good effort made by our employees to shift people that weren't busy to places that are busy. So that was really nice to see. We had full reservoirs for the most part. Lots of good boating for this season. We'll see how long summer decides to stick around. I'm starting to get a little tinge of coolness in the air at night, so we will see what happens there. As was mentioned too, the algae blooms are starting to show. We got a couple of those popping up, and hopefully we'll get to more of those. Since we didn't meet since last February, there's been a ton of staffing changes. I don't know if you want me to go through all of them. I can highlight, we can ask questions, but we had one retirement since February. That was the Aaron Farmer from Denforce. We had about 8 resignations or terminations or transfers. Those were for various different reasons. We had 22 promotions and or vacancies filled. So there's a lot of movement going on. So if you want to, I can go through them all, but like it's a lot. You guys won't remember, but I can tell you any details if you'd like. But it's throughout the state. It's not just one area. It's multiple. But as someone's promoted, then you got a vacancy, and then people move into that spot. So lots of movement. We have 2 people in post right now. One, Chad Carr, is going to San Paulo, and Holly Seuss for Echo. And then we have 5 vacancies at the moment. So we have a San Paulo park manager one that should be filled probably this week, or announced this week. The Palisade assistant, Woodward Bay park manager, Escalante buildings and ground supervisor, and a rock court ranger. Those are our current ones. So that was one of the acceptable ones, right? It's on.
Can you tell us, like, if you replace the park manager, who was that? Just so that when we go.
Just the park managers. Okay.
Yeah, just the park managers.
So the Huntington complex, it was Brad Walker was selected, and he actually came to us from out of state. James Wells moved from Goblin Valley to Dead Horse. And then Goblin Valley is being filled by Drew. How do you say his last name, Megan?
It's Sprafke.
Sprafke? Okay,
Sprafke, yeah.
he's from Colorado. But he will be the new Goblin Valley manager, and he starts next week.
Tuesday.
Charity Owens was promoted to park manager at Rockport. And that's assistant. I think those are all the park managers. I mean, quite a few, right?
Yeah.
Quite a few. We've had lots of events the last couple of months. We've had ribbon cuttings. So we had the Sand Hall Campground ribbon cutting. We had the Red Fleet Campground groundbreaking. We had a ribbon cutting for Echo, Deer Creek Campground, and a day use area at Rockport. We had Fremont Indian State Park Museum had new trails and facilities that we had ribbon cutting. Antelope Archery Range, and a new dip tank at Utility. So lots of new things done. Other events, we've got Military Appreciation Day coming up this Saturday. So that's where the parks allow free entry into the parks for current military and veterans. So they're allowed to come in the park, and a lot of parks will have additional activities going on. And most of those are usually free for our military. So I know Camp Floyd has like a concert going on, and from that type of is it 1930s or 40s era, but they have music and stuff going on. It's very, very neat concert that they put on in activities. But there'll be certain things throughout the state, and I believe on our website, those activities are all listed if you want to partake in those. We had a 50th anniversary celebration at Frontier Homestead. It was well attended. We had several scorpion programs. We had Spider Fest at Antelope Island that was well attended. Ironman at San Paulo. And then also went through Snow Canyon too. Right. We had a Utah Lake Festival. There was Anasazi has farmers market going on for a couple months throughout the summer. That's been really nice. Astro Fest in Moab has been going on, and Dead Horse is taking part of that. Cattle Fest at Steinecker. And then upcoming, we've already mentioned the annular solar eclipse. So all those parks within that area are gonna be pretty busy probably. And we actually have, I should have brought some, but I didn't even think about it. We have state parks solar eclipse glasses that we had made. So,
all those state parks will have those.
the park managers that said, yes, I want them, they will have them for sale for like $1 or something. But yeah, they got our little logo on them and everything, so it's pretty cool. And then of course Bison Roundup will happen in late October and 28th. Yeah. So those are the really big upcoming ones that we have. So, fun stuff.
Yeah,
28th. Okay. Quick update on our Division of Outdoor Rec agreements. We successfully completed our agreement from last year. We had requirements of doing OHV contacts and vessel inspections, and we surpassed those numbers. So for boating, we had a target of 5,300 vessel inspections, and we did 5,800. For OHVs, the goal was 53,000 OHV contacts, and we did 71,000, almost 72,000. For outreach events, could be safety fairs, checkpoints, other things like that. we had a target of 126 events and we did 187. So we surpassed all those goals. We met those. The new agreement has been signed for fiscal year 24. The only difference is we'll be reimbursed for actual expenses rather than just a blanket amount. And then we do have some flexibility with those target goals to account for vacancies, injuries, things like that. So anyway, that's all in place. We've been working on our park plans. So all the parks have been updating those. All the parks are in different stages. The bigger parks have multiple years to get it completed. The smaller parks, a little less. No meetings, public meetings have been scheduled yet, but we'll let you know when those do get scheduled. We suspect some will start getting scheduled this fall, probably. Maybe some, yeah. So maybe some. Susan's been very involved in that process, and it's quite cumbersome, but we're making some progress. Employee van tours, we started those a couple of years ago. We will be doing one this year in the South Central area. So that will include Fremont Indian State Park, Paiute, Otter Creek, Kodachrome, Escalante, and Anasazi. That will be November 7th and 8th. So we usually invite board members if they want to go, right? So if you guys want to go, that's when it will be. Law enforcement, rifles have been purchased for all the rangers. So previously, if they wanted to carry a rifle, they had to supply their own. We would pay for the ammo, but they had to spend however much to have their own rifle. But now everybody will have their own rifle, or the division issued rifle, and it'll all be the same. Won't have millions of different, different ones. So that's a good thing for equipment. And also new handguns were issued this past winter. And with those new handguns, we are now getting optics for those. They've arrived and they will be trained with the new optics this fall. And it has a retina that a lot of agencies are going to right now, and it's supposed to increase accuracy quite a bit. Can you use it yet? The new optics for the handguns? I've used my husband's, and it's different, but it does increase accuracy quite a bit. So it'll help any weaker shooters or people having issues. It should help quite a bit. And then the other stuff is more Jeff's things. So I can switch gears.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. No. So again, sorry that Jeff's going through a hard time right now, and we are thinking about him. And so don't worry about it. We got it. It's okay. So we have a groundbreaking next month for Utah Raptor. The construction should start pretty soon. We have some upcoming ribbon cuttings at Quail Creek and Escalante. That's for the campground that should be coming in the next couple of months for those campgrounds. Utah Raptor and Knob Creek developments have been delayed a little bit because of the search for water. The wells haven't been going quite as planned, but we continue to push on those. Antelope Island, so there's a museum expansion and the theater project for that. And it's set to start this spring and being done in early 2025. So hopefully we'll have a division conference out there and really celebrate this huge, beautiful facility that will be in place. We have completed several projects since the last time we met. So including the Sand Hollow Campground, the Davies area at Rockport, the Echo State Park main entrance is all done. And if you've ever seen what Echo looked like before, it's totally, completely different. Doesn't even look like the same area. The whole thing's been changed. And then the Deer Creek Campground. So, and then things still on the horizon. We were at Bear Lake, so we know the marina. That will eventually happen. North Eden, Rainbow Cove, that's all being worked on. Lost Creek, Raptor. Soldier Hollow Campground is in the process right now. And then, like I said, we'll be finalizing Quail Creek and Escalante. And those are the major things going on. There's a lot going on. Those are just kind of the highlights, but, the other thing is, the state has moved to a pay for performance type, employee contract type thing. So the employees have to have quarterly evaluations, and because our period starts in November, we did a third quarter evaluation. So all of our employees talked to their supervisors and found out how they're doing. And this process will be really good because it actually requires these quarterly evaluations to let employees know if they're doing well, if they need to make improvements, you know, and it gives them time to make changes before it's too late, right? So it's really good. Most of our supervisors do a great job talking to their employees, but this just helps document them. So that's something we're going through. But yeah, it's all good things.
Good.
Any questions?
Yeah,
That's a
questions
lot.
for Dory?
Sorry, I tried to be not too detailed. But
Thank you.
there's a lot since February. I was just like, oh my gosh. So.
We appreciate you and Scott. Get some good ends. Let's next go to our action item looking at repealing some rules. Moving to parks and recreation. Laurie, and Steve, here.
You can do the rec one, or you can do it all if you want.
Well, I'll just launch in.
Okay.
Stop me.
Okay.
Maybe I'll stand up.
Sure, you
Stand
can.
up.
Yeah, there's an open
Yeah.
seat down here on camera. That
So,
The owl looking at you.
oh, great. Again, I'm Shane Stroud. I'm the assistant for Kendall. I also assist the division of outdoor recreation. So I'm familiar with why we're repealing these rules on both sides of the coin. So there are a few things today. We are repealing some rules just outright that are really obsolete. I'll explain those. We're repealing some other rules that will move over to the division of outdoor recreation because they are now the division of DNR that have statutory authority to enforce those rules, specifically OHP and voting related rules. And then we have a couple of rule changes. Biggest one of which is rule R661-700. That deals with how the division acquires, sells, changes, manages real property, including things like outright purchases of real property, acquisition of easements or granting of easements. So let me just go over first the rules that we're planning to outright repeal. This is a rule, Rule 651-102, that pertains to provisions regarding how the decision handles grammar requests. The reason we're repealing that rule is because it's entirely duplicative of and in some cases inconsistent with statute. So if the statute covers it, we don't need a rule that additionally covers it. And the risk in having a rule that's duplicative of statute is the statute changes, and the rule might not. So instead of having a rule that's completely superfluous, we're repealing that and we'll just rely on the statute. That's what most agencies do. That's what DOR does. That's what a lot of other agencies are doing. So I think that's probably the best interest of the division. Likewise, the electronic meetings. The electronic meetings rule is duplicative of and in some cases inconsistent with the Open and Public Meetings Act. You'll remember that to the extent we needed to make any type of additional or set any additional type of expectation with regard to meetings, we did that through a resolution which passed last fall on electronic meetings. And otherwise, this rule is just duplicative and thus not necessary. A couple of other rules, the disorderly conduct rule, that's actually covered in both law and another rule that Parks has. And then finally, the law enforcement rules, R651-632, again, duplicative of statute. It's already covered in statute. It's already covered in parts of the law. So those are the rules that we're outright repealing and why we recommend to make this appeal. Let's go over the biggest rule change for you. Well, actually, let me go over a smaller one first. We're proposing a change to the rule regarding special closures or restrictions, specifically as it pertains to Antelope Island State Park. Lori can correct me if I'm wrong. She's far more familiar with the process here, but my understanding is our park manager and our biologists have recommended that we keep domestic sheep, packos, and other camelids out of the park to protect bighorn sheep populations. We also are recommending a rule change to allow for some trail closures to allow for protection during bighorn sheep lambing seasons. And then likewise, a rule that requires that mules and horses be secured through a lead rope or tether, and other animals be secured like dogs by a leash while they're on park property, unless they're actively engaged in waterfowl hunting activities, waste control of their handler. That would be the one exception, because there are waterfowl hunting activities that can take place. The bigger rule change this time around, again, is Rule 651-700. That pertains to real property transactions. And you'll see, if you look through the packet that's provided to you, there are a lot of changes to that rule. Susan and I worked very closely together on this rule, and we've been actually working on it now for probably the better part of the year. The reason why we've recommended some changes here is that in certain places, the rule is duplicative of statute. In other places, it has proved to be difficult for the division to administer, or I guess I should say that it's probably a little bit too specific as to how we should manage some of our real property interests. So, for example, with regard to easements, sometimes we grant an easement and it's just the right of somebody to cross a roadway. They don't do anything to the property, they just need to be able to cross the roadway. I'm thinking in this case of the Union Pacific Rail Trail to access. Summit County needs to cross that roadway to access the property on either side of the trail. There's really no land disturbance that goes into account when talking about that type of easement. It's just somebody driving over the surface of the trail. But our real property rules require such an extensive process with regard to those easements that actually throws up a large impediment to us granting an easement, increases costs for the division, and increases costs for oftentimes our sister state agencies with subdivisions. These changes to the rule allow us a little bit more discretion in allowing for a simplified process when we have some of those more direct and simplified easements like crossing the rail trail. Whereas if we have a more involved easement like result in land disturbances, we can require additional steps by the easement applicant to ensure protection of division properties. There are also changes to that rule. There was some inflation between the special use permits that we offer to our concessioners and other individuals within parks, and the types of use permits that we provide to those who undertake construction projects within our parks. In order to clarify that those are two separate permitting processes, we made changes to Rule 700 to make that clear. We made it easier for the division to enter into real estate transactions with sister state agencies, in other words, other agencies of the government, while still maintaining protections for some of the more involved processes with regard to private property transactions, private landowners. And then we eliminated some of the provisions, as you'll see in here, that we believe are either superfluous or otherwise covered in other parts of the rule that were not required by law to make it easier for the division to administer some of its real property. I want to make clear that this isn't an effort to try and exempt the division from complying with the law or to make it easier for the division to dispose of real property. The law is still very restrictive as to how the division can dispose of real property, how it must acquire real property. Both the Parks Act prescribes that, and the Utah Constitution does as well. So Parks is still going to go through the same process as it's going through now when it's moving through these real property transactions. these changes to the rules just allows for flexibility. And then finally, as I said before, there are a number of OHB related, voting related rules that we're repealing in their entirety. Again, the reason why is because the Division of Recreation re-promulgate those rules on their side of the Parks and Recreation equation, because they are now the division and aren't the statutory to force and pass those types of things. Susan, did I miss anything?
In fact, it started with in the legislature when Jack was in there, where they came out and said, you need to remove everything you're. That started that long ago. We just slowly going through rules each year and doing. So a lot of this is simply just that. And my chances, there's a lot of duplicative stuff in there, repeated 3 and 4 times sections. And a lot of the complicated stuff that we had to do for easements, even if the state wanted to go get an easement for power to operate our campground, we would have to go through this whole federally almost legal process or something like that, which isn't required by state law. I don't know why, but we changed that to a May. So those things are jumped in there, but we don't have to pay something to do that.
And again, there might be instances where that's appropriate, where there's a land disturbance, and we feel like it's a good process that will provide us with information to ensure there's not a disturbance of recreation value or there aren't environmental concerns. It further addressed before we make the but like Susan said, this gives us the flexibility to differentiate those circumstances and some of the most of the situations we have where we're just granting somebody the ability to pass over the top.
Shane, so Joel Ferry has approved all of these. Now, after you guys approve them, I'm gonna work with India in the Division of Recreation to make sure that the ones we're repealing and that Recreation is doing, we do the same day so that they'll be repealed and their new one will go into effect the same day. So that's just one thing.
Yeah, so thank you, Ellen, that's important. So OHB and voting rules, you may vote to approve them today. They probably won't be filed, tomorrow or the next day. The other really filed. Because we want to make sure that there's no lapses in these rules. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Shane or Susan? Okay, so in your materials, there's a couple pages that has some suggestion motions. Let me direct your attention to first the items that Shane went over was the rules to repeal. And under Rule 651, there's 102, Federal Records Access and Brown stuff, and 103 electronic meetings, 607 disorderly conduct, 632. Those would be items that we would entertain a motion to repeal. We capture all those in one motion. Appropriate. Someone would like to take a look at that suggested motion and capture those 4 rules.
I move to approve amendment of rule R 651 through 700, administrative procedures for real property management. That what I'm doing?
Yeah, and then somebody second that one.
I'll second that.
Okay, so that was to, we're looking at 651, 700.
Yeah.
To amend the rule was presented.
Oh, we have all those at the top. Too.
Yeah, you would just.
Yeah, that was fine. Yeah. 651 through 700.
Okay. We also have
Administrative procedures for real property management. Are we doing them all?
I want to capture things in 3 groups. Is the one you're looking at is the 651, 700 is we also have a motion or a suggested motion to also to amend 651-3633.
Okay,
Could we lump those two
I
together?
amend my motion to amend the rules.
Okay.
I motion to approve amendment of rule 651-700, administrative procedures for real property management, and to approve amendment of R 651-633. Is it a dash or
A dash.
a dash? Sorry, special closures or restrictions.
Perfect. Thank you. I have a motion from Joan and a second from Brent. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect. Thank you. So now I'd like to jump up to the next group. That'll be the 4 above, and that's to repeal. And that's these 4 that are in R 651, and that includes 102, 103, 607, and 632. Is there someone who would entertain motion to address those or to repeal?
So I'll make a motion to approve a repeal of R 651-102, R 651-103, R 651-607, and R 651-632.
Thank you. So a motion, Felicia, is there a second? Awesome. Second, Russ was fast, quick on the draw. Thank you. So a motion from Alicia and a second from Russ. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so now is the big one. And this is to address and repeal those sections, these rules that would be moving to the Division of Recreation. These are all in R 651. It's a long list of them. I think we need to mention those by referencing by number. If anybody wants to make that motion.
I'll take it. I think I can combine some of, because there's a combination. So I'll make the motion to approve rule repeals. Does it need to state that it's moving to the Division of Recreation?
I think
Okay.
so. I think you should.
Okay. R 651-201. I think I combined these through R 651-2227. And then R 651-401, R 651-405, R 651-406, R 651-409, R 651-410, and R 651-412.
Thank you. Okay. So we have a motion from Natalie. Is there a second?
I'll do it. I'll second. So I just combined
Okay.
it. Yeah, like all the way. So.
We have a motion from Natalie, second from Val. All those in favor of repealing these rules, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Jane, to appreciate the efforts keeping it clean and make sure we're on the right track. Next, we want to take an opportunity to do a little recognition. Thank you.
I have to run and grab them out of
Yeah.
there.
No, we'll grab that. So,
Hey, let me explain to you a little bit about what's in your sacks.
swag bag.
In your swag bag, so there's new shirt, and Melanie can talk about those, but there's a much nicer shirt than the last year we got. And then you've got some good old box seller treats, just so you know, this isn't just any old, this is so my friend Chris, when we were talking about viewing stuff, he just wanted all the treats. Wanted all the pregnancy treats. Of course, so this isn't just random caramel corn. This is from our local movie theater, and it's a local flavor. So, and then oh, lots of different flavors.
And they use real butter, right, Joan?
Yeah,
Not labor butter.
Anyway, and our iconic, and a golden star.
Joan, did you send mine in the mail?
I'll bring it to you, Megan.
Okay, next time you're in Moab.
I'll bring it to you, Megan.
Yeah, just wait for it.
And I feel worse for Wayne because he used to live here and has probably partaken of some of this stuff. So.
This is true. This is
Yeah,
true.
fine, I'll get it.
Yeah. Trust me.
Yeah, don't have the inventory of what's in the bag.
Half-eaten sack of corn.
I'll stuff it out first.
Yeah, just the kernel.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, thank you. I had another thought while I was waiting, I forgot during my report, but one of the things I was suggest, like in a little cabin, it would be awesome if there was a shelf to put the food and stuff on. That would take place and all that, like so awesome that I would have brought my own shelf if I would. I bet others feel the same.
Yeah.
You were in
Which one were you in?
Yeah, East Canyon.
the one I stayed in had a shelf.
Did it?
So I'm wondering if the one you were in.
Someone might have thrown mine. But it was, but yeah, that's like, surprised there wasn't one because they had grocery bags all over the floor.
I've stayed at one for work a couple times and I haven't. You do me a favor? Yeah. Stay at one of our cottages.
That's, well, I took what I got was given and.
I mean, I'll
and,
say.
I got the cottages that have everything.
I already booked one for us. When
Okay.
you'll be impressed with the sort of.
You hear that?
Yeah.
I can't wait. I'm so excited. I mean, they're there. They're just.
She's returned.
Let's jump in here. Let's start with Claudia. Claudia, can you come up here and stand with us? And as you're coming up here, take a minute and tell us just about some of your.
The highlights of my people now. So we should do one in here and then do another one on the side.
So are you gonna take a picture this way?
Yeah.
Just want to be candid. You can keep going.
I like the shit.
I'm going to turn over my official bag. Maybe. And want to thank the board for your patience with me because I know I was very local.
You were?
No.
I always had an opinion about something and I still do about some things that are good today. So like with the certain change in title.
I'm good at that.
But I have loved my experience here. And I am obsessive compulsive about minutes.
Say
So
always, you
thanks.
always. You
Well, I do, and that's because it's been my feeling that that is the official record of this board. I mean, you can have a paper recording, you can have discussion, but what we approve, the written document is the official. I took it very seriously and hopefully forgive me for being obsessive.
It was so appreciative.
Took your place as the large position, is that right?
Yeah.
So you may have to take over that duty.
It's okay.
Being like the meticulous minute reviewer.
That I can handle.
Melanie,
I
I
never
was
did
awesome
officials.
job. Very seldom.
So I always appreciate your
Willingness to speak up.
Very, I mean, every group needs that. Every group needs that. And that's the beauty about having committees like this is the different personalities, different people, different. We appreciate everything. And we hope you're not strangers.
When I asked, I told Melanie, I don't have a favorite. So I said, can you just do me a map?
A collage.
Yeah.
Cool. Nice, look down.
I would be remiss if I didn't say, Claudia, that I was scared of you.
No.
No. I know.
I was.
That wasn't meant to be funny.
I was meant to be scared.
No. But what I love is getting to know you better, and I love your this kind of like you just shoot straight. Nobody wonders what Claudia's thinking. It's very clear and concise. It's what we want. And I just have grown to really appreciate that. I've seen a different perspective of for part of Claudia, and that she has a lot of fun on the joke with. She's got a bit of dry sense of humor, but she can make a joke. Figure that honestly with that, without questioning your passion for helping and participating on the board as well as especially parks. So, thank you.
Here's your test.
Well,
She's not gonna let you off the hook.
this is a job one.
That's a job
That's
one.
Jordan.
That's
Jordan
Jordan.
L. That would be. That was Antelope Island. That one's San Hollow. That's Kodachrome. Here's this. This one could be.
Lindsay did. There's,
I think that's Kodachrome.
there's probably 10. I don't know how many she
And this almost looks
She
like
did it.
Lost
I
Lake.
like she had one that was like
That's
sensitive,
their
and then it had a like this, but you couldn't really see it.
You know what, we're gonna call this house.
Quite a bit.
There you go.
Because we had it ready for the baby.
Wait a minute.
That's awesome. That was a good idea.
It is.
Are they both the same melody?
Is it really?
Yeah, Natalie said
both
that
the
she
same.
wanted a collage. So
There, huh?
We got it.
yeah, Lindsay did the collages.
What did you get personalized?
So we can take a slow picture.
Yeah, and then, we could go, you know, that's where that. Yeah, we can, background, but at least getting it. Take it nice.
Cool idea.
Tell us one of your favorite memories, you know. A meeting, a tour, bantering with Scott.
Which time?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's not all remember that.
Holy shit.
Chairman.
Yeah.
It was a year.
You were all saying.
Why was it traumatic?
Some accident.
Oh, dear.
I especially like the
I wasn't
little.
on it, but I just.
Remember when we were talking about the
That's what I was thinking, one of my memories would be just out here supporting golf carts.
And you happen to know that we got money last year.
Jeff said that's why they go do.
So
Oh,
there's a bit of a slight issue.
but that's my turn.
We're a little behind on that. But it's in.
So it's better like getting new parts or they're getting the ones.
They're getting
Okay,
new- again, they're getting newer parts.
They're getting newer, older parts.
I enjoyed yours.
But if you go back today, that will.
I enjoyed, oh my goodness, I remember. It's an interesting little park in sort of three different sections of the park. On the ground floor there, around that, around the passion, and you want to know. There,
I think you're talking about Michael, right?
I.
So long.
He did he ever get his thing cut down?
You asked for it.
Okay, well, awesome. All right, so.
You can keep asking even though you're on, stay in touch with us.
I did go to, it was interesting that I went to, let's see this, I can't think of it, it's one of those,
Frontier?
the one has a little cube. No. You just went there, you just, you don't want to be there. You just like, I keep thinking, yeah, oh, wait.
Okay.
So I go in there and we just had our meeting. And so I go in there showing my little house and this is here. And I'm like, oh, it is. You didn't get her, no, it's because you're welcome to. It was after you didn't get her at the meeting. So we have really alert staff. And really good.
We let you in still.
Yes, I made it.
Okay. It's a variety, so.
Just amazing. Okay. It just is something that I've always tried to do. Up to my obituary, I guess, if you will.
A selfie.
So.
You got them.
Oh,
You know, this Scott, he's so self-centered, you have this book with Scott. I mean, it's like, yeah, well, selfie.
Selfie Scott.
How do you really feel?
Photo ball.
So is that his name? Selfie Scott?
Selfie
Is that-
Scott.
Mhm.
I think it's on.
All right, Natalie is probably our movie star and face of the division, right?
Not probably, she
Not
is.
probably, she is. Yeah, you did a wonderful job out there, social media, movies. Just represented us well. We really appreciate all that you've done. You're so active on the Hill and with the legislature and just being out there and representing the interests of who we are. And just did a wonderful job, and we're sad to see you leave after a short time, but it's going to be great having you here. You're going to still be busy and doing good things.
I'll still be around.
Yeah. That's about your
My
thoughts and
experience.
memories, or yeah.
I got a little bit worried with body touching.
This will be long. This will be really long, so you have to be by the line.
I still honestly remember my first state parks board meeting. Ryan was going off the board. I was coming on. So Ryan, now with governor's office, I've not shifted a little bit too. And we were at Antelope Island, and I just remember he pulled me aside. The best board you will ever be on, and he's with 100%. So I felt super honored to be invited to be a part of it. I think one of my other most memorable things is getting pulled and sitting in the back seat of a car for 6 hours, maybe with legislative analysts, talking about state parks and how great they are. But no, all the experiences have been amazing. Staff is amazing. It's great to meet everybody throughout the state, build the relationships.
We support the conference, so.
We'll see you next time.
We will see you soon. Very soon.
And I just appreciate our friendship. And I meant what I said yesterday when you came and sat down with me at the table. It was calming. It was like just a good friend who took my mind off of everything and actually we bantered some ideas. Even that's silly. Just having that association and your perspective, your engagement in tourism was just amazing, as well as not that anyone in this room really can understand the gravity of that, but that was good. And hopefully it was a little bit of fun.
No, it was a lot of fun. We got to hang out, we got around,
See some behind the scenes stuff, but somebody's always. Thank you.
All right, different kinds of photos.
Yeah. 3, 2.
Okay, now the other way.
Yep.
Right hand. Here, we're gonna.
It's like an exhausted.
I know. Yes. Perfect, thank you.
Fallon, you're filling that one? So if.
Oh, no, she's not.
Oh, Elaine is, that's
Yeah.
right. So Elaine gets the next 3 hours with me at Dead Horse Point in the Cove.
I think it was yesterday she was supposed to be appointed, Elaine.
Today,
Today, okay,
and she was.
okay, exactly.
Okay, next on our agenda is other business, and to look to our next meeting date. Melanie, can you refresh our memories with our next meeting date?
So the next one is, I think it's November 1st and 2nd. Let me look. Yeah, November 1st and 2nd. And we had talked about Kodachrome and Escalante. However we say it, Helen. And that's the last one that we have planned. So we need to plan the next quarter or the next year of meetings and where. So the next one would normally be in February. And if that's legislative session, has that always been at Salt Lake?
What will be the date for that one? Is that gonna be the 8th and 9th?
That's up to you if you want the 7th and 8th, 14th, 15th.
I guess generally that was just a one day, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So I guess we've done it only on the Thursday. So
That's Friday. So it's the night, sorry.
Let's have it the 7th and 8th.
The ninth is in January?
This one's due one day or it's all like.
Yeah,
so February 8th.
Or isn't this Saturday the tenth?
No, she said the 9th. Sorry. she said the
That's my
9th.
fault.
It was the 9th.
Friday.
So it's the 8th.
And I'll send out invites to everyone after we decide on these.
Okay, so February 8th, Salt Lake City.
Then the next ones are May.
Now, Wayne and I had some good plans that we had to scrap because we canceled the meeting. You guys want to come down our way in May?
The 8th and 9th? Or what days?
Yeah.
May 8th and 9th? Wayne's that look okay?
Don't fall asleep, Wayne.
I'm still with you. I'm still with you.
Okay, we'll take care of May 8th and 9th. Plan. Okay, then
August.
We could shift this one a week before or after. That would help me because I've always got that.
so like we moved it to the 31st and 1st. Or if we moved it a week later, you're saying?
Yeah, I can see, if you can't move, that's okay, but
In
that's,
August.
that's always the.
14th and 15th. Do they like that better, August 14th?
Is that okay to everyone else?
There were the narrative in the woods.
Something new.
San Juan.
Yeah.
What was that?
San Juan.
Edge of the Cedar.
Go back down that way, Edge of the Cedars, Gooseneck. I don't know.
Oh, you just.
In August?
That's a hot.
That's a hot time. I know, Megan.
November.
Megan's like,
Zip code.
Let's
Fall.
do that. Yeah, let's do that.
Let's go north in August. There's someplace new.
I don't, we did Huber Grove. We did Huber Grove.
Soldier Hollow.
Like Huntington,
Oh, yeah.
Palisades,
That'd
like
be a nice area.
represents that kind of area. Who represents that area?
yeah, they did, but I don't know if we know this.
Oh, Huntington, I think. Bellwood.
Is that gonna be?
Well, I have some questions on that.
Alice, you got the map.
Yeah,
Well,
it kind of overlaps with the southeast a little bit.
Who represents that?
Palisade?
Huntington, I think, is southeast, but then
Yeah.
Palisade
Oh,
was
apparently I-
Ballard.
You represent Palisades? Okay. Palisades.
And me.
I was saying all the words
But I
wrong
just
today.
think my list might be missing some.
It might be.
Okay.
I
You help us with the,
tried to do my best. I threw that together and
I'll
I was
ask
trying to. Yes.
Then you can tell me.
Well, we can go through it together.
maybe like East Central, some of the stuff Palisade over that area.
I'm gonna put my focus.
The map was printed
Work with
off
Fallon, see
of
if we can come up with there.
an actual website. So the map is correct. I just tried to throw in the parks.
Including Huntington Mill site. Do you want to do Huntington Mill site, Palisade?
Maybe even some more. Those are kind of really tight and close. Probably capture something else.
Yeah, you go.
Well, and Wayne's region starts on the west side of Palisade, so there's also Fremont Indian State Park, close to
They have
Richfield.
a nice room there that we can utilize as well.
We did that.
Did we already do three?
We did that. Yeah, we did. But
That's like Huntington is nice and got the college
yeah, snow.
and price.
Schoolfield's an option.
Yeah, you can use USU. USU campus.
Okay, then that takes us back to November 2024.
So that's August 14 or 15.
Yes. Then we're looking at
November, San Juan, in addition to seeing Utah Raptor, all done. Hopefully it's supposed to be done November.
That'd be cool. Oh,
Sneak preview, maybe?
Yeah.
Edge of the Cedars.
okay.
Yeah, Utah Raptor, Edge of the Cedars.
Hey, did you guys decide on November if you want the 6th and 7th or the 14th, 13th and 14th?
13th, 14th is better for me, but.
It's better for me too.
13th and 14th.
Okay. I will put those down and
You said that was the
Stone Blizzard Lodge.
It's a better time of year.
okay.
Or
San Juan County.
Bears Ears Inn. They're both in Bland.
From,
For Bears Ear.
Yeah, Bears Ears Inn.
The first tour I went on until like 8 years. Yeah.
Okay.
It's really the best.
Okay, San Juan County. You got us, Megan?
Yep.
Okay,
And you know what Wayne is the tourism director. Yeah. But those are two, like the two best places in Atlantic to stay.
And Elaine.
anyway,
And Elaine.
anything else to bring up for our board? Well, this is, we'll give you a call, we're coming down that way.
Yeah.
13, what was the November date?
13th, 14th.
All right, if there's nothing else, I'd accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Last back. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Who motioned? You motioned?
Nobody second.
Did anybody second?
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Jack.
Jacqueline. All
I
right.
was like, I did.
Down here,
First
and,
or one of them.
down here, do you guys have any instructions you want this point or hang out for a few minutes?
So is it technically